Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to Susan Booth.
Good morning. Good morning. Two new favorite terms from the relentless parsing of the end of the last decade and the beginning of this one. Political outrage fatigue. As in, stop, just stop. I can't hear about another pinhead move by those people. I'm gonna go binge watch Game of Thrones. And nomophobia, as in the paralyzing fear of being caught really anywhere without your mobile phone. Common denominator between these two? Inundation. Either the overwhelm of being inundated by news, noise, people, polemics, or the want of being inundated, being somehow rendered vulnerable or unmoored by the absence of full and immediate knowledge of news, noise, people, polemics. It seems like the best way to measure our current American moment is whether we are surfing the deluge of data or being swept along in its current. Either or. Don't you love a good binary? They're really useful for understanding your place in the world, right? Victor, victim. Maker, consumer, ahead of or behind the fabled curve. We crave being placed on a continuum for the sheer comfort of location, location, location. Please tell me that I am not the only one who feels a kind of warm bath stabilization when met with the mall map arrow. I am here. Maps and binaries crystallize where and who we are, even when they do it by telling us where and who we're not. But here's a wrinkle. What about how we are? Mix it up further. What about why we are? So don't panic. I'm not going to go full-on philosophical navel gaze on you. Nobody's got time for that. But what I am going to suggest is what you do with where you are, be it your literal place in the environment or your figurative place in the universe, that is yours to control. With the use of intentional attention, you can purposefully craft how you show up and make a palpable difference in your own life and the life of others. So, let's make this a little more concrete. I'm going to start with a statistic with which I'm guessing a lot of us are familiar. 40.2% of Atlanta Public School third graders are reading on or above grade level. So we're looking at a data point. But what are we seeing? 59.8% of Atlanta Public School third graders are not reading at or above grade level. 29,000 children in Atlanta are not reading proficiently by the end of third grade. Students who do not read at grade level by third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school than their reading proficient peers. High school dropouts are more than twice as likely as college dropouts to live in poverty. So we're still in a looking space, so let's try this. Looking versus seeing. The dispassionate consumption of data versus empathetic response that necessitates action. So I'm a theater artist. And I remind myself early and often that the word theater comes from the Greek theatron, meaning seeing place. It matters that just now we are sharing time and space and common humanity in a place of seeing. Theater was created as a civic practice, not a decorative one. And it was created by the same people, same time, same place, who created democracy, and this is not an accident. The Greeks made a societal decision that it was worth the investment of the communal public's time to focus intentional attention on multiple, concurrent, and divergent points of view. And to be able to do that in the political arena, you had to hone that capacity in the audience arena. Way back, 5th century BC, the Greeks anticipated our present moment of mutually exclusive truths. And smart cookies that they were, they made it a civic responsibility that every citizen spend regular time developing their capacity to deeply consider someone else's point of view by attending theater. Because when stories take on human form and unfold in front of us in real and unedited time, it is not just the mind that gets engaged. It's the heart. So those spaces up there that used to be occupied by third graders until they were erased by statistical analysis and not very sophisticated PowerPoint, those spaces hold stories. And enacted stories are how we move from looking to seeing, from hearing to listening, from being engaged to being deeply engaged. What's interesting is that the story of third grade literacy in Atlanta is being rewritten right now using story as strategy, medium, and message. To construct the third grade reading brain, you have to start a lot earlier and provide access to language-rich environments, because while reading is a facilitated learning process, story is a natural and universal occurrence. And that's why in arts-infused pre-K and kindergarten classrooms in Atlanta right now, educators are using the theatrical art form to spark imagination and increase classroom participation. Children are witnessing narratives, and then they're asking questions about characters, about settings. They are making meaning out of language. And once that critical connection starts to form between words and emotion, the neural pathways that enable reading start to develop as well. This is great, right? But the other difference between looking and seeing is speed. Looking is about the fast acquisition of information, of stuff. Think late night online shopping. Think channel surfing. Think profiling. Seeing requires that we slow down, pay attention, engage all the senses in the intentional moving past the facade, allowing details to aggregate not just into meaning, but into caring. So how do we do that? Neurologically, how do we give a rat's ass? Which is really just a salty way of saying, how do we care? You would think that empathy is also a natural and universal occurrence, and you'd be partly right. We have these nifty mirror neurons in our brains that allow us not only to perceive what another person is feeling, but actually to experience the same sensation as a result of that witness. Cool, right? Super useful skill in navigating a radically diverse world. Except, in our present moment, there are some barriers to developing and utilizing this skill. So our mirror neurons develop in the first decade of our life, and they do so in direct response to human 3D live interaction. We are now in our second generation of human beings who, in the first decade of their life, received more input from single-dimensional sources. Think phones, think tablets, think screens, than they did from three-dimensional sources. Think mom, think dad, think grandma. As a result, we are now in the second generation of humans with a quantifiably diminished capacity for empathy. Oh, and wait, there's more. Remember the inundation issue? Political outrage, fatigue, nomophobia? We currently perceive ourselves as being in such a state of time depletion that the notion of engaging in intentional attention on a human story other than my own, also known as attending theater, that notion can seem not just impractical, but impossible. So not only are we coming out of the gate with an already diminished capacity for empathy. But we don't believe we can place value on time spent deliberately engaging the very muscle that could revitalize our capacity to care, that could help us remember, because we believe there are more important things to do. I am not here to sell you a ticket. I am here because you represent a population in Atlanta that made a serious commitment of your time to learning about Atlanta's challenges, and you went one better. You made a commitment to doing something about it, and that is big, and that is hard. And we could all use some help making space for statistics to become stories, making room for stories to matter to us so much we have to make a difference. I am here to tell you that there is a practice and a place to help you make that space and to find that room. You are sitting in it, and you are so welcome here. Thank you.